That's just not, I just can't do that. I'm sorry. It's just not doable.
He's witnessing the harvest. You don't spend decades planting seeds and then act surprised by the crop. James Carville just admitted something conservatives have been saying for years. After socialist-backed candidates swept key Democratic primaries in New York this week, one of the architects of the modern Democratic Party said, "I'm not in the same party as these people anymore." But here's the question Carville doesn't want to answer. Who let him in? Today, we're going to unpack why this isn't a Democratic Party takeover. It may actually be the predictable result of decades of political compromise. And if Carville is right, the biggest battle in American politics isn't between Republicans and Democrats anymore. It's inside the Democratic Party itself.
So, Mr. Valier, the New York Times reported, and I have the quote right here, I'll get to it. She is against, past off all her views, she has attacked interracial relationships in the American flag. Lady, I ain't in the same party as you. I'm sorry. I just not. And I actually do think it's time for Democrats to talk the S word, schism. I really do.
I think it was Chevalier that he was referring to just a second ago. If you listen to like their acceptance speeches, they're all wackadoodle. But in particular, Chevalier, she was born in the U.S. Her parents are Dominican Republic immigrants. I can't find anything in recorded news pieces or anything, whether or not they came here legally. She does say she's a first-generation American. That could mean she's an anchor baby. I think the biggest mistake our founding fathers did was enable people from other countries to serve in our federal and even local and state governments. Clearly, this person does not have allegiances to the United States. If some of the Supreme Court rulings that come down soon land on the wrong side for her, it would indicate if her parents were not legal citizens ever, and she's a first-generation American, then she's not legal either because she is not under the full jurisdiction of the United States government. Her parents are Dominican.
Always said, no, we're a coalition, we're a big tent. And there's just some shit that I can't be in the same tent with. And we talk about what Mamdani was 3 for 3 last night in Manhattan. They call it the Commie Corridor. Fine. Jason Crow's service PAC, vote vets, 10 for 11. You wouldn't know Jason Crow exists. Okay,
no, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know Bill Sandberg exists. You wouldn't know. And I want to be very specific. I understand the free press for being here because if they nominated David Duke or something like that, we'd be the same way.
Okay, the fact that he would even suggest that we would nominate someone like David Duke tells you everything you need to know about James Carville and what he thinks of Republicans.
I understand all that. To the extent I understand the Times, because they are the New York Times, so they have to cover, they are the hometown newspaper. But the idea that we must neglect everything else that's going on, all of these other primaries, all the recruits Jason has, all huge, phenomenal successes we've had, and declare that the party is now under the control of a Democratic Socialist of New York City is insane.
No, it's not, because that's exactly what's happening. And you made it happen.
But and understand, these people do not like Democrats. Not only are they not Democrats, they wish Democrats poorly.
Here's what happened. They saw the vehicle of the Democrat Party as being the most available vehicle to accomplish the socialism that your president, Barack Obama, ushered in. So you helped with that.
Maybe there's a way that you can say to, I guess Mamdani is the leader of it, is, you insist that, try to insist that the people that run under your banner run as a Democratic Socialist and don't use the Democratic Party as your guideline, and let's negotiate the terms of a schism here. Maybe we can part under some kind of advantageous terms for both of us. But I'm done. I'm not in that fucking political party. I am totally comfortable in a political party that spends time questioning the policies of the government of Israel. In fact, I'm enthusiastic about that. I don't want to be in a political party that denies the right of the state of Israel to exist. That's just not, I just can't do that. I'm sorry. It's just not doable.
Okay. So I'm glad to at least hear James Carville have enough morality to make that delineation between, questioning the motives of another country's government with regard to its influence on our government and having issues with that versus questioning whether or not that country even has the right to exist and the people that live in it have the right to exist. That's the faction that has taken over his party, and he sat there and he's watched it happen for 20 years. And they encouraged guys like Barack Obama. Where do you think it started? That's where it started. And they just assumed that they'd never lose control and that they'd always be able to manage these, these young, plucky activists. Didn't happen. So now what's happened is they've taken over. They have commandeered your party and they have driven off with it. So, what's fascinating about listening to James Carville? And I actually agree with much of what he just said. He says that these Democrats aren't really Democrats. He says that they don't share the party's values, and he says that they should stop hiding behind the Democratic label and start their own political party. And that's fair enough. But my question is, where in the freaking hell have you been? James Carville is arguably one of the architects of the modern Democratic Party for more than 30 years. He worked for Bill Clinton. He helped build the coalition that dominates the party today. He was there when Democrats embraced identity politics. He was there. The party steadily moved left on social issues. Abortion on demand and gays in the military were the thing that shifted the party from being the party of the little people to all about identity and social issues. He was there while activists who once occupied the fringe became an increasingly influential part of the coalition, and that was fine with him so long as he found them useful. Now suddenly he's shocked that Democratic socialists are winning Democratic primaries. This didn't happen overnight. It happened because the party kept making what it believed were temporary compromise. We need their votes. We need their energy. They're just one faction. We can keep them under control. But political movements rarely work that way. The newcomers don't usually become more moderate. The institution adapts to them. Think about the progression. 20 years ago, openly calling yourself a socialist was political poison. Bernie Sanders made socialism a national conversation. Crazy Bernie. AOC made it fashionable inside of Congress. She's young, she's pretty. She did her, her TikToks and her Instagrams. Now candidates aren't hiding those views, they're campaigning on them. That's why Carville's reaction is so revealing. He's acting as though the party has been hijacked. I don't think that's what happened. I don't think many of us think that's what happened. I mean, I just said hijacked, and I guess that's true in a sense, but they were in the car with you. So I don't know why this is such a surprise. I think this is the logical destination of decades of ideological drift. Ideas that were once considered too radical slowly became acceptable, the slow boiling frog. Acceptable ideas became party talking points. Talking points became policy proposals. And now those policies are becoming the platform for an entirely new generation of Democratic candidates. That's why I don't think James Carville is witnessing a true takeover. He's witnessing the harvest. You don't spend decades planting seeds and then act surprised by the crop. His answer is that it's time for a schism, and these candidates should form their own party. Maybe. But that's a conversation that should happen decades ago, not after they've already started winning primaries. For years, conservatives warned the Democratic Party was drifting toward democratic socialism. And in reality, it's not such a shock because a lot of people would call FDR the closest thing we've had to a socialist president. So We've somewhat already had our feet in the pool with regard to this ideology before, long time ago, 100 years almost. The response was always the same, though. That's fear mongering, that's Republican talking points. Now, one of the Democratic Party's most influential strategists is making essentially the same argument. The only difference is that he's saying it after the movement has gained real political power. And I think there's a lesson here that applies to both parties. Political parties are like houses. You don't lose your house overnight. You lose it one room at a time, one compromise, one election, one new faction, until one day you wake up and you realize the people living in the house have a completely different vision for what it should become. That's what James Carville is reacting to. He's not worried about one congressional race in New York. He's worried about the Democratic Party he helped build no longer reflecting the values of the people who built it. Whether you agree with his politics or not, that's a remarkable admission from him. Because if one of the party's chief strategists is publicly saying, I'm not in the same party as these people, then maybe the real story isn't that Republicans have been exaggerating. No kidding. Maybe the real story is that the fight over the future of the Democratic Party is no longer between Republicans and Democrats. And I would argue that that's really not been the core issue anyway. It's been establishment Democrats who believe they can still steer the party back toward the center, and a new generation of activists who believe the future has already arrived. And judging by these New York primaries this week, they're no longer asking for permission. They're taking control. My name is Kelly Jackson, and this is Still Not Canceled. If you found any value in what we just shared with you today, please like and subscribe. I am working on my first 100 subs, and I would love it if you would join that community. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. Put your comments in the comment box. Give me ideas of commentary that you would like for me to share. And I will catch you in the next show. Bye-bye.